There's no sense rushing into these things. Good evening, Ministers, Secretary of State, Mr. Humphreys, ladies, gentlemen. It is wonderful to see so many of you here this evening in what is such an amazing setting as we continue to celebrate 230 years of the Northern Ireland Chamber of Commerce. And thanks again to Belfast City Council, who once again have given us their kind use of the City Hall. On behalf of the Board and the Council of the Chamber, you're all most welcome. And I'm delighted that this event continues to enjoy such strong support from the government, both Northern Ireland and from Westminster. And I'm also delighted to see so many of our 1,200 member companies well represented here this evening, and guests from other prominent business organizations. I'd like to applaud the leadership shown by the Executive in supporting our efforts and those of Invest Northern Ireland to help more companies seek growth through exports. And I'm thinking in particular of the recent mission by our First Deputy First and our Deputy Minister to China and Hong Kong. Company successes highlighted during the mission were very encouraging. Yellow in Carrickfergus securing business worth £1 million in the area of broadband testing equipment. Glenarm Organic Salmon selling fresh salmon in Hong Kong. Who'd have thought it? And my own company, Wrightbus, receiving a breakthrough order for 50 double-decker bus kits to add to the 450 buses already in service in Hong Kong. And I'm just going to pause there for a second. And I don't want to embarrass this 6-foot leprechaun sitting at the table here next to our past president. But Mr. William Wright and I visited Hong Kong some years ago when the buses were first delivered. And I have to tell you, I mean, they haven't seen anybody quite of his stature and frankly white hair in a long time. And it is true to say that the crowds gathered around him to have their photographs taken with William. More recently, our Hong Kong customers have continued to surprise us. They were through here actually just a couple of weeks ago to actually confirm the order for these 50 bus kits. And we were delighted to give them the tour of Belfast as it is today. So, as you might imagine, we took them to the Titanic. If you haven't been there, why not? It is absolutely superb. We gave them the coastal drive. They stopped by the distillery in Bushmills to do a tasting. And we thought we'd had a pretty full day. But there was still one item remaining on their agenda, and their purchasing director actually nudged us and said, "Do you have any sheep?" We thought, well, it's not usually how we finish up the day, but I'm sure we can rustle something up for you. And these gentlemen from Hong Kong, sophisticated people as they were, don't get to see sheep in fields in Hong Kong, and they wanted their photographs taken with the sheep. Sheep, an undervalued resource in Northern Ireland. What these successes show is that there is business to be won abroad by companies of all sizes and all sectors, provided we commit to investigate the opportunities in country and devote the time required to develop the relationships which underpin long-term business. And I think the Northern Ireland Chamber has led by example in encouraging new exporters. We have a program called Export First, and for over a year, we've been bringing would-be exporters together with mentors and experienced practitioners. And we're going to develop this program further in partnership with Danske, offering more services and encouragement to our members because we believe it's essential that all enterprises, small and large, look beyond Northern Ireland to broaden their horizons. After 4 years of downturn, flatlining, and uncertainty in our home markets, public and private sectors need to help each other to rebuild confidence. I think it's confidence, belief in our ability to challenge economic adversity through working together, which will give us momentum and which can sustain us for the long road ahead. I think the Executive should be commended for its efforts to stimulate economic activity, most recently in the £200 million package of new and reallocated funds. And we also appreciate the confidence shown by David Cameron and his team on bringing the G8 summit to Fermanagh, an event which will not only please Minister Foster, but will also showcase, we hope, all that Northern Ireland has to offer as a location for international events and conferences. It promises to offer a tremendous boost to the local economy, and it will send an important message to potential international visitors that Northern Ireland is an attractive place for holidays for tourists. Next year also, we're looking forward to celebrating Derry as UK City of Culture and to welcoming the World Police and Fire Games to the province. We're also anxious to see the publication of the strategic plan for tourism development in Northern Ireland. We really must maintain momentum on the back of the Titanic commemoration and the superb Irish Open Golf Championship in Portrush. And I'd also like to add the thanks of the business community for the open access that we enjoy with all executive ministers and departments. And we do appreciate the willingness of the executive to work with the Chamber in considering our proposals. We also recognise that there needs to be one strong, unified voice of business here on measures that are required, and the Chamber commits to working with other member organisations of the Business Alliance to do just that. After all, if we can't practice joined-up thinking in the business community, we can hardly accuse our government of the same failing. The campaign for a reduction in corporation tax to at least the level of that enjoyed in the Republic is a good example, I think, of the Executive and the Business Alliance working together. And it's a model that we must replicate wherever possible. That said, the fate of this particular campaign still hangs in the balance, and the continued uncertainty about the timing and the implications of the devolution of tax-setting powers casts a long shadow over prospects for economic recovery. We look forward to hearing, hopefully this evening, the latest assessment of the Minister of Progress, or otherwise, on corporation tax, and whether we're likely to see action within a time frame which matches the urgency of the task in hand. Because business risk has to be encouraged and rewarded. We think that the single best way to do this is to reduce corporation tax and provide our companies with greater long-term financial incentives to invest in growth. When I was thinking about what I wanted to say this evening, I was somewhat inspired by a remark I heard made by former Israeli Prime Minister Golda Meir, who once said, "We cannot afford the luxury of pessimism." It's easy to be pessimistic, much too easy, particularly about the economic outlook that we face today. But pessimism invariably encourages a lack of decisive action, and there's a very real risk that in the face of political disagreement over how best to stimulate growth, that paralysis reigns. The coalition government seems to cling to its austerity policy, as if we just need to keep taking the medicine and one day soon we'll get better. Well, I'm not so sure that this prescription will have the desired effect, particularly for the patient here in Northern Ireland. I'm not an economist, but I am an optimist. Hopefully, though not naive. I know that confidence breeds confidence, and it's up to our leaders, both in government and in industry, to set the tone. This is a challenge where a business-minded approach to government might help. I'm thinking particularly about the techniques employed in lean manufacturing, where waste is eliminated, processes focused on continuous improvement, and delivering value to the customer. And I would heartily recommend a lean attitude to government, asking difficult questions about the purpose of regulations, reducing bureaucracy and eliminating red tape, speeding up processes and decision-making, and above all, remembering who is the customer, because it's you and I, employers, employees, taxpayers, the electorate. Lean government doesn't necessarily mean an immediate reduction in public sector employment. That will only come realistically when the economy rebalances. But what a lean approach would call for is a sharper focus on raising output by deploying and marshalling scarce resources more effectively and efficiently. No more confusion about where to go for help, and no more queues when you get there. A transformation of our economic fortunes calls for a radical overhaul of the way government here functions, a reimagining of the relationship between public and private sectors. We'd like to see a much deeper collaboration between business, schools, universities, and government, with the overarching objective of ensuring that Northern Ireland is fit for purpose, realizing its potential, and ready to take advantage of the recovery quickly, because the recovery will come, and we do not want to be left in the starting blocks. The global economy coming out of recession will be fundamentally different. Drive and influence are steadily moving east to Asia. China already owns much of the public debt of the US and Europe, and it's going to exert an increasingly powerful influence in the decades ahead. So developing relationships with China and India, as the executive is doing, is an essential proactive strategy. A coordinated relationship between government, business, and education should surely be possible in a region as small as Northern Ireland. In many ways, we're like a village. In this room, we pretty much all know each other. So is it too much to ask for a seamless plan? We could create a more dynamic culture, a positive outlook, greater confidence, and a can-do mentality by working together. We already have many ambitious and well-run companies in Northern Ireland with the products and services to find success overseas. But we need more, many more, to help transform the local economy. We must encourage companies to look beyond markets in Britain and the Republic and to explore the opportunities of emerging regions. We must build on the work of Invest Northern Ireland and our own Chamber export team to help would-be exporters engage in new markets offering growth. Northern Ireland PLC has got to go global. Above all, we urge the UK government to create the conditions and the confidence for growth. Perhaps along the lines recently suggested by Lord Heseltine, who recommended that business should be encouraged and assisted to provide the necessary leadership through organizations such as the Chambers of Commerce. A realistic growth strategy has to be based on greater exports and a higher level of investment in areas such as technology, innovation, infrastructure, and training. And if the government is reluctant to invest substantially in infrastructure, well, it should encourage the private sector, particularly financial institutions with cash, to pick up the reins, and as quickly as possible. Access to finance, especially working capital for exporters and other activities, remains crucial. And we do welcome Invest NI's support strategy in this area, particularly the Growth Fund and the UK Export Finance. And we await with interest more details of the business bank proposed by Vince Cable. What is required, and I believe urgently, is radical action by the government to address an economy which is in danger of stagnating. And we hope that the Chancellor will seize the initiative to stimulate growth in his autumn statement next month, to instill confidence in the future, and to encourage greater investment by companies in new product development and new markets. The Chancellor should demonstrate that the pursuit of growth really is at the heart of the government's agenda. It's time to get this economy moving forward again. Here in Northern Ireland, we have the talent, the sheep, the entrepreneurial spirit. We have the ability to punch above our weight. We can address the challenges, and we can win by working together. We can demonstrate that business really is good for Northern Ireland, and Northern Ireland is good for business. Thank you very much.